Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Now, this is the kind of news development that is going to ensure that XRP market dominance only increases as time passes. And it's true, when a story like this breaks, it immediately impacts the price of XRP about 0% of the time. Totally acknowledge that, but that's okay. It doesn't need to move the price of XRP today. Developments like the one I'm going to share with you today are exactly what will ensure the long-term viability of XRP and the XRP ledger. Now, in the future, people will regret not paying attention to what's developing in the XRP ecosystem because everything will be obvious in hindsight, but it's because all of this is what ultimately results in a very real opportunity for regular people like you and like me to achieve life-changing wealth. And there's been no shortage of crypto media outlets covering this story. Here you can see the headline from Ripple's press release. It's Ripple expands into the Kingdom of Bahrain through strategic partnership with Bahrain FinTech Bay. And in reading this press release, you want to guess how many times XRP was mentioned? I'll just tell you, 0 times. And so this story has been covered by basically the entirety of crypto media outlets. I've read tons of stories. None of them, literally none of the, at least the ones that I saw, none of them explained why this should matter to you if you're an XRP holder and why this is good for XRP specifically. And without that, if you see a headline like this, you might be wondering, well, why the hell do I care? That's why I want to make this video, so I can explain exactly why this very genuinely matters. I mean, look, it just is the case that XRP is at the very core of everything that Ripple does, and this is no exception. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. And so, indeed, Ripple just made another huge move. This is. And frankly, this one, as I alluded to at the outset of the video, could have major implications for the future of XRP. So Ripple, as is obvious through this press release title itself, Ripple has officially expanded into Bahrain through a new partnership with Bahrain FinTech Bay, the kingdom's main fintech incubator. Now, the goal is to integrate blockchain and stablecoin infrastructure, RLUSD anybody, directly into regulated financial markets across the entire Middle East. So on the surface, that might sound like just another international expansion, broadly speaking. But the deeper significance here runs far beyond geography. It's about positioning Ripple and the XRP ledger at the heart of the global financial system that's been being rebuilt right now. I mean, it's literally unfolding right in front of us. I mean, for those who are paying attention, for those who want to look, yeah, that absolutely is what's happening. And as I've been saying for nearly a decade at this point, XRP, it absolutely is at the very core of everything that Ripple does. And of course, with Ripple being the largest XRP holder on the entire damn planet, that shouldn't be surprising to you. They have the most incentive out of any person, business, or institution to make sure that XRP does well. And I know when you see all this positive news for XRP and just broadly things that Ripple have been doing to just dominate their field, kind of the running joke is like, no matter what good news there is about what Ripple's doing, even if it specifically is about XRP, it just doesn't move the price. And I know that can be frustrating for people, but it is the type of thing that will help to ensure XRP is around for the long haul, even if you don't see that short-term price bump, and we never do. And so, Bahrain has been one of the earliest adopters of crypto regulation anywhere in the world. It's not a jurisdiction that's experimenting with blockchain just to make headlines, let's say. They're serious. And this is a country with a legitimate, well-regulated financial sector that's open to innovation under very clear rules. I guess the United States is kind of playing catch-up, frankly. But, that's exactly the type of environment Ripple has been waiting for. And remember, Ripple, they already secured its license from Dubai's Financial Services Authority earlier this year. And now this Bahrain partnership further cements its position as a trusted player in the entire Gulf region, one of the fastest growing fintech corridors on the entire damn planet. And this is the headline. I remember covering this at the time. This is from March 13th, 2025. The headline here was Ripple secures Dubai license to offer crypto payments in UAE. So all of this is happening behind the scenes. I don't know if enough people are paying attention to this. I mean, I kind of get the suspicion probably not. And even if they are paying attention, I'm like, okay, but do you understand why this matters if you're an XRP holder? Because it definitely matters. You know, at the core of all of this expansion is RLUSD, this brand new stablecoin launched in just December of last year, less than a year old. Ripple's new US dollar-backed stablecoin. Things are going well for it so far. I think it's fair to say that. And Ripple has made it clear that RLUSD, it's not just some side project, okay? It's central to the company's long-term vision of connecting tokenized assets with traditional payment systems. So the more RLUSD is adopted by regulated institutions around the world, which is what we're talking about here, the more deeply Ripple's network becomes embedded in global finance. We're talking about moves now that ensure, like I keep saying, true long-term viability for XRP and the XRP ledger. Because look, stablecoins are of critical importance in the modern era, and if Ripple's version, RLUSD, becomes widely trusted, which, let's be real, it likely will, given the global desire for compliant stablecoins like this, that creates a massive on-ramp into the XRP ledger for banks, for fintechs, and governments the world over, frankly. And this is where it matters most for XRP holders. When Ripple builds real-world financial infrastructure like this, in places that actually use digital assets for payments, for custody, and tokenization, the XRP ledger itself becomes more valuable as a platform. That's why you got to keep your mind open and just think, this is, like, big picture is where this matters. You see, every new partnership like this one, it strengthens the network effect, even if you don't see a pop in price when you get news like this. Institutions that first connect for RLUSD stablecoin operations could easily extend those same systems to include XRP as a bridge asset for liquidity and settlement. And look, once you're transacting on the XRP ledger, you've already stepped into the ecosystem where XRP is the native asset. And I know that RLUSD is on multiple chains and it's just going to keep expanding. But don't you think this matters? Don't you think the brand that is RLUSD actually matters? Don't you think that collectively that is good for XRP and the XRP ledger? Well, obviously the answer is yes. And also, as more of this type of adoption occurs, more people, more businesses, institutions who seek to diversify into the crypto space will find XRP to be very appealing because it's functionally useful. And since it's functionally useful, they will have confidence that the market price of XRP will only trend upward as time passes. Think about it. If a cryptocurrency is useful and it makes business models that are possible that otherwise wouldn't be possible, and if it makes RLUSD, for example, makes that possible on the XRP ledger, don't you think that people that want to get exposure into the crypto space are going to be like, that's probably one of the most safe investments in the crypto space because it just works, therefore it's not going away. Doesn't that just make logical sense? Well, obviously, yes. And don't forget, every single transaction of RLUSD on the XRP ledger, on the XRP blockchain, it requires XRP itself. Literally, XRP is required for anything that's tokenized on the XRP ledger, including RLUSD. So there's that, and then again, after that, XRP effectively functions as a gas like a gas token, because XRP is required as a tiny fee. It gets burned for every single transaction that happens. And so again, even if it's RLUSD that's being used for any number of use cases, again, if you're somebody that's, like I just said a minute ago, if you're somebody who's interested in investing, expanding further into the crypto space, and you want to invest where, there's some reasonably safe bets as far as that goes in a volatile crypto asset class, well, why wouldn't you think that XRP is going to stick around if XRP is literally required for all of this? It's just a no-brainer. And so, this is how, frankly, this is how the long game plays out. Ripple is quietly creating a web of regulated, enterprise-grade corridors that all connect back to the same underlying technology, the XRP ledger. That's the blockchain, folks. And over time, the blockchain, I mean, really the entire network, like the entire network of compliant participants, of course, it builds trust, builds liquidity, builds volume. That's the foundation for real utility. And real utility is what ultimately drives long-term value. It just does. And that's why I've always said, at the core, my investment thesis is that utility matters and will win the day. Period. Big picture, that is what matters. And so every time Ripple enters a market like Bahrain, it's another proof point that the company's strategy is working. And you can call it slow, if you want to. I mean, that's subjective, but you should also call it steady. You should call it, regulatory first, which I think, again, like I said earlier in this video, I think that the world's clamoring for a product that is such. And it's worth remembering that XRP has already survived and thrived through one of the toughest periods in crypto history. It's been tested by time, by regulation, market cycles, the SEC nonsense. You know what happened there. I don't need to preach that to you. You were there. Most of you were there anyway. And it's still here. XRP and the XRP ledger, it's still here despite all of that. Still growing and now being integrated into legitimate financial systems around the entire damn world. That makes XRP one of the few digital assets that can honestly be described as an early winner of the crypto space. And I've been touting that as far as I'm concerned, as a matter-of-fact statement for most of the last year. Because right now it is just obvious. We don't have to question any longer, did XRP make it? Is it going to make it? No, it happened. Now it's just a question of scale. How big is this going to get and how quickly? And, right now, most humans on the planet have never even heard of XRP, but just wait. Just wait, folks. It's only going to increase. Way less than 1% of humans have ever owned XRP at any point in history, and the coin already hit an all-time high in July of $3.65 freaking cents. Where do you think this goes when it gets bigger and bigger and then bigger and then even bigger than that? I mean, I'm not in the price prediction game, but you can see why I'm optimistic. You can see why I have the conviction I have, right? Obviously, this is just going to get bigger. It's already doing stuff that the world wants and values. So then just do even more of that. And then it gets bigger and more people jump into crypto. You just happen to be early. And congratulations, very genuinely, for figuring this out before the rest of the humans on the planet. It just makes sense. It just does. So, this Bahrain move, like I said, isn't just a headline. It's part of a long-term pattern showing how Ripple is laying down the rails of the future financial system. They really are. They're a huge part of this. And with RLUSD acting as a compliant and stable foundation, and the XRP ledger powering tokenization, obviously, real-world asset, that's not just a narrative, that's a real thing here. But the XRP ledger powering that, tokenization, liquidity settlement, we're watching Ripple build something that could define how money moves globally over the next decade or more. I mean, I think they're going to be a huge part of it anyway. I mean, I don't want to pretend like it's only Ripple that's going to have innovative products and services. That's not my belief at all. I just think that XRP has its place. And XRP is a huge part of this. And so that's why I keep saying, for XRP holders, this is exactly the kind of news that reinforces why patience pays. Ripple's doing, again, I'll just repeat, Ripple's doing the groundwork today that ensures XRP and the XRP ledger will still matter, and likely matter even more, years down the line. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.